I flew off to Costa Rica with my wife for a 2-week escape, convinced all I needed in life was ocean air, hammocks swaying between palm trees, and a couple of lazy sloths blinking down at me from the canopy. Peace, silence, zero responsibility. What I didn't realize was that while I was ziplining over rainforests and sipping overpriced coconut water, the devil in designer yoga pants Karen, our HOA president, had apparently decided my ranch had magically transformed into community property. She saw an empty house and thought, well, look at that. A perfect opportunity to turn this into my own little cash machine. No call, no notice, no permission, no contract. She broke into my ranch, ushered in complete strangers dragging rolling suitcases, and slapped her fake little HOA approval notices on my front gate like she was launching a certified luxury retreat. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoy premium HOA chaos. When I came home, the first thing I saw was fresh tire tracks carving through my gravel driveway, as if someone had hosted a monster truck rally. Then I noticed barbecue grease stains smeared across my patio stones, and my barn door hanging crooked, apparently repurposed as some influencer's rustic Instagram backdrop. I walked further in and froze. Kids were splashing in my pool, kids I had never seen before in my life. Their parents were stretched out under my gazebo, sipping drinks and laughing as if they owned the place. One woman, blonde, overly bronzed, wrapped in a neon cover-up, actually waved at me and said, "Oh, good. You must be the groundskeeper. Could you bring us a few more towels?" I almost swallowed my own molars. I walked straight up to her and said, calm but deadly, "Ma'am, I own this property." Her smile cracked faster than cheap foundation. She let out this awkward little laugh and said, "Oh no, we booked it through the HOA's rental program. Everything's been cleared with the community board." At that point, I could feel steam building behind my ears. I told every single one of them they had 10 minutes to gather their knockoff designer luggage and get off my land before I called the sheriff. Right as the last SUV was pulling out, Karen rolled up like she was arriving at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Wide-brimmed sun hat, clipboard tucked under her arm, sipping cucumber-infused water like she was the CEO of Stolen Property Incorporated. She started talking fast. Technically, the residence was unoccupied, and the HOA bylaws allow temporary allocation in situations of idle residency. Didn't hear anything after technically. I just smiled, nodded once, and said, "Perfect. I'll see you in court." She laughed. Actually, laughed. Karen must have assumed I was bluffing. Maybe she thought I'd stomp around, shout at the sky, and then retreat into my tractor shed to cry over spilled lemonade. Not happening. I didn't cry. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called Mikey Mendoza, college buddy turned courtroom predator. The kind of litigation shark who once made a Fortune 500 CEO tear up under cross-examination. I told him, unauthorized subletting, forced entry, property damage, and impersonating ownership. There was a pause on the line. Then Mikey said, "Brother, I haven't had a case this delicious in months. We filed a lawsuit so thick the courthouse clerk actually sighed when she saw the box of attachments. Photos of the broken barn, screenshots of online rental listings, testimonies from neighbors, HOA bylaws printed and highlighted in neon ink where Karen had twisted wording beyond recognition. It was airtight. But Karen? She doubled down. She marched into the next HOA board meeting with her chin tilted high like some cartoon empress and declared, "We acted within our interpretation of the idle property clause. This is a misunderstanding, not misconduct." Interpretation? Please. That clause was meant for mowing lawns and collecting mail, not renting out someone's private ranch like it was a Florida timeshare. Then the cease and desist letters started flying. Not 1, not 5, 20. Every guest who had set foot on my property received a formal notice from our legal team. One bold couple actually tried to return to finish their prepaid stay. Mikey personally met them at the gate with a court order in one hand and a sheriff's deputy standing beside him. They left faster than they arrived. Soon, the local newspaper picked up the story. The headline read, HOA president converts private ranch into unauthorized resort. That's when Karen's smug little mask began to slip. Reporters started knocking on her door, microphones in hand, asking uncomfortable questions. Was this about generating revenue for the HOA or personal profit? Did you have written authorization from the homeowner? Her answers got shakier by the day. She called an emergency HOA meeting, claiming she wanted to clarify misunderstandings. She stood at the podium, her clutching a typed statement, her voice wobbling while homeowners fired questions like missiles. Why did you break into a locked gate? Who approved listing his ranch on Rental Mojo? Did you seriously charge guests a local hay tax? The entire HOA board fell into stunned silence the moment Mikey stepped into that meeting room. His suit was razor sharp, his posture straight as a rifle barrel, and his eyes carried the kind of fire that makes people reconsider their life choices. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "We'll be seeing every one of you in court," he said evenly. "Unless you prefer to settle right now with a written apology, full compensation for damages, and Karen's immediate resignation." He paused. Figuratively speaking, of course. But the way the air tightened around his words, you could practically taste blood anyway. Karen immediately shifted tactics. The confident queen of bylaws suddenly morphed into a trembling volunteer. She dabbed at imaginary tears and claimed she had only been trying to raise funds for the betterment of the community. The courtroom, however, wasn't interested in her performance. Judge Kessler, a gray-haired man with weathered hands and the slow, deliberate tone of someone who had worked real land, leaned back and studied her as she just tracked mud across his living room floor. "So let me understand this," he drawled. "You broke into a private citizen's locked property. You rented it out like a commercial resort. And now, you're asking this court for sympathy because you believed it served the common good." Karen's attorney, a perspiring man who looked deeply uncomfortable in his own suit, attempted to mumble something about ambiguous language and board interpretation. Judge Kessler didn't blink. "Ma'am," he said calmly, fixing his gaze on Karen, "have you ever seen trespassing charges stacked alongside impersonation of ownership and fraudulent leasing?" She stared at him blankly. "Because you're about to become very familiar with that combination. That's..." When Mikey delivered the knockout, he introduced the financial records. Karen had quietly opened a separate account titled HOA Ranch Retreat Fund. Every rental payment from every unsuspecting guest had been deposited directly into it. And when Mikey projected the withdrawal statements onto the courtroom screen, one name appeared again and again: Karen's. The money hadn't gone toward landscaping or community improvements. It had paid down her personal credit cards. It funded the construction of a brand new backyard deck at her house. And yes, it covered a luxury spa weekend reservation. While I had been scrubbing mud off my boots after repairing my damaged barn, she had been enjoying seaweed wraps and hot stone massages financed by my property. An audible gasp rippled through the gallery. Karen began to stutter. "That's circumstantial. It's a coincidence." Mikey lifted one eyebrow. "Then perhaps it's also a coincidence that you emailed your sister a week before the rentals began and wrote, quote, 'Found a way to make easy money while the ranch owner's away.'" Silence swallowed the room whole. You could practically hear the flatline of her reputation. Outside the courthouse, the neighborhood buzzed like a disturbed beehive. The illusion of Karen as the flawless community champion was shattered overnight. One homeowner muttered to a reporter, "She collected dues from us for a decade, and now we find out she's been running side hustles with private property." Another demanded answers about the so-called emergency drone security system that had mysteriously never materialized despite hefty upgrade fees. Karen stopped posing for photos. She began ducking behind parked cars when cameras appeared. Hoodies replaced her designer blazers. She deleted years of smiling Facebook posts where she'd stood like a self-appointed monarch of the subdivision. Meanwhile, Mikey and I prepared Phase 2, asset recovery. This wasn't just about winning a lawsuit. It was about reclaiming every dollar, every board, every ounce of dignity that had been trampled. The day of the verdict felt almost cinematic. Karen entered the courtroom wearing a blazer clearly too large for her frame, as if she were trying to hide inside it. Her makeup was uneven, smeared slightly at the corners, as karma had finally landed a punch. Her attorney looked exhausted, 5 years older than he had the week prior. Mikey, on the other hand, walked in calmly with a latte in hand, flipping through the final damage assessment as if reviewing brunch options. We hadn't filed a simple complaint. We had constructed a mountain of claims: criminal trespass, unlawful subletting, property destruction, financial fraud, emotional distress, illegal entry, and impersonating a licensed property manager without credentials. Judge Kessler reviewed the file. He didn't hesitate. Guilty on all counts. The words drained the color from Karen's face. The judgment fell with devastating clarity. She was ordered to repay every cent earned from the illegal rentals plus triple damages. Her personal accounts were frozen on the spot. Her vehicle was subject to seizure. The custom deck she had built with stolen funds was marked for liquidation. And perhaps most stunning of all, the court ordered the HOA itself to dissolve pending a full federal audit. That audit uncovered even more. Karen hadn't just exploited my ranch. She had been quietly siphoning HOA funds for years. Maintenance budgets are inflated. Vendor contracts were manipulated. Reserve accounts depleted. Homeowners who had once applauded her leadership were now consulting attorneys of their own. Outside the courthouse, Karen trembled as reporters circled. "Please," she pleaded, shielding her face. "I never meant for this to happen." A journalist called out, "Do you regret pretending to be the ranch owner?" She hesitated before delivering the most honest sentence she'd uttered all year. "I didn't think he'd ever find out." "Oh, I found out." Within weeks, a foreclosure notice appeared in front of her house. Her Range Rover was towed from a grocery store parking lot in broad daylight. Her social media accounts turned into ghost towns, littered with comments branding her the poster child of HOA corruption. Even her sister reportedly refused to let her move in. No one wanted proximity to a scandal that had become neighborhood legend. As for me, I reclaimed my ranch fully and legally. But instead of turning it into a profit machine, did it my way. I opened it up for charity events, veterans retreats, foster youth programs, and local agricultural workshops. The gates stood wide for good causes only, and at every single gathering right near the entrance, I placed a framed copy of Karen's booking photo with a small plaque beneath it that read, "This ranch is proudly HOA free. Trespassers will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Some lessons cost money. Karen costs everything."